Former President Trump hitting the trail in battleground Georgia today. Early voters there are heating up the race by turning out in record numbers. But the push is still on for undecided black voters. Let's bring in Gianna Caldwell, Fox News political analyst, and Fred Hicks, 2019 top political strategist in Georgia. He has worked on more than 300 campaigns across the country, so he is well qualified to be with us today. Gianna, let me start with you. Here's what the Real Clear Politics average in Georgia is. Trump leads by about 2.5 points, 48.9 to 46.4. Still within the margin of error. But when you consider that Georgia is 30% African American, more than twice the national average, and black men are now going toward Trump to some degree, that could present problems for Kamala Harris.
It doesn't just present problems, or it could be. It is a major problem. You got to keep in mind, when it comes to African Americans in any presidential election year, for the Democrat, that person usually receives a percentage of 90% plus. Kamala Harris at this point isn't even cracking 80% among black voters. And that's problematic for her candidacy because the black community has been the backbone of the Democratic Party. But black folks are saying all over the country, not just in Georgia, but enough is enough. Enough of using the same old racial playbook that they've been running since the 60s. Republicans are racist and they don't want to do anything for you. Enough of that. We want to hear about policy. We want to hear about what can you do to move our community forward. And they continue to use these same old tired plans on reparation studies and all these other things, which black folks are pushing back against. So we have an issue here for the Kamala Harris campaign, and that's, can you actually win this voting block that Democrats have normally won? And I think the answer is no. You're not going to win it like you used to.
So, Fred, here's what Jason Riley observed in the Wall Street Journal. Before the global pandemic shut down the economy in 2020, inflation-adjusted weekly earnings under Mr. Trump grew 12.5% for all black workers and 12.7% for black men, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The corresponding figures for white workers, 7.9 and 8.2, demonstrate that before COVID, black workers were making absolute gains and gaining on their white counterparts. Under the Biden-Harris administration, inflation-adjusted earnings to date are up less than 1% among blacks and down 1.5% among whites. Comes back to Bill Clinton's old argument in 1992, it's the economy, stupid.
So what we're talking about there with the Wall Street Journal report is the rate of increase, not about the overall absolute performance level with respect to income. As the Biden-Harris team has mentioned several times this year in the campaign trail, that at this point, black unemployment rate is lower than it's ever been in the history of this country, and that black wages, while not increasing necessarily at the rate that anyone would want to see happen, but they are actually still increasing. Now, that's not to say there are not economic issues, and the Vice President has talked about that. When you're looking at the cost of groceries and you're looking at the cost of housing, then those are major issues, and that's why she released a plan that deals with that and is looking to address those issues, from increasing the inventory to making sure that we deal with predatory lending and making sure that you have access to capital so that you can earn more money, we can get the rate of increase up there. So to his point, the policy does matter, and the Vice President is rolling out a robust policy plan, which we've not seen matched from the Republicans.
But, Gianna, if you're an undecided voter and you're going through a decision tree and you look at economic growth under Trump of 12.5 and 12.7%, and you look at under Biden-Harris and it's 1%, I mean, there's not much of an argument there.
I mean, there isn't much of an argument, and I would want to know from Fred, well, why hasn't she done all these brilliant things already? And I understand that she's vice president, but Joe Biden has said that they're partnering on everything. She's the last one to leave the room. So if things are so great and she's put forth such a powerful policy plan for African Americans and all over the country, people all over the country, why hasn't she done it? And I think that's the fundamental question that a lot of voters are asking the Kamala Harris campaign, because it's not happened.
So, Fred, final question to you. So, what we're seeing Kamala Harris's closing argument in the last 13 days being is Trump is a fascist. He embraces Hitler and wants to have his generals. She's not saying to young black men across the country, here's what I'm going to do for you economically. Well, at least it's not illegal, which is what she proposed before. So is that the right closing argument? And for her to call Trump a fascist, what do black men think about that?
Well, those are Trump's words. That's not her closing argument. Trump is the one who said he admires Hitler's generals.
Yeah, but she's the one who's making a point about it. Is that what black voters want to hear in the last 13 days?
Actually, it's his generals and his administration people who were talking about that, and then the reporters who are putting that out there.
But Fred, maybe I'm not articulating it right. But if you're a black man in the United States and you're trying to make up your mind who to vote for, and you're on the cusp of going with Trump, is calling him a fascist going to change your vote?
Well, again, she's talking about what's already being reported out there. But to answer your question, because I want us to make sure our viewers have the full spectrum here, the reality is that she spent this weekend in Atlanta, where I am right now, and she spent both Saturday and Sunday talking about her economic plan, talking about her plans for Black America, and talking to and dealing with matters as it relates specifically to Black men. Now, before that, she also released her economic plan where she talked about access to capital and things of that nature. So the reality is that she is doing this. She is pressing the flesh, so to speak, to talk about this, while at the same time Donald Trump's statements keep coming out, and that she'd be foolish not to talk about that, because those are things that he's talking about. But for Black men, the economic empowerment is the #1 issue, and also access to or the ability to take care of our family and our children, and she is speaking to that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if calling him a fascist is going to change anybody's mind. All right. Gianno, Fred, good to catch up with you. Thank you so much. A lot to talk about between now.